The hidden power of being alone begins with a feeling most people try to escape. You sit in silence, reach for your phone, search for noise, or fill the room with distractions because being alone seems uncomfortable. Yet beneath that discomfort lies a question few dare to ask. What if the unease is not your enemy at all? What if it is the doorway to a strength that civilizations once considered the foundation of an extraordinary life? For thousands of years, the greatest Stoic minds guarded a truth that modern society rarely teaches. They understood that solitude was never about isolation or sadness. It was about returning to the only place where genuine freedom could be found. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while constantly withdrawing into his own mind. Seneca warned against becoming addicted to crowds. Epictetus reminded his students that the strongest fortress any person could build existed within their own character. Most people fear being alone because they mistake silence for emptiness. They believe that without constant conversation, approval, or entertainment, they lose part of themselves. The Stoics reached the opposite conclusion. They believed that the constant noise of the world slowly steals your identity until you forget which thoughts are truly yours. Solitude is where borrowed opinions fade and your authentic judgment finally begins to speak with unmistakable clarity. Think about how often your emotions are controlled by forces outside your command. A careless remark changes your mood. A stranger's opinion lingers in your thoughts for hours. A message left unanswered creates anxiety. An unexpected failure convinces you that your future is collapsing. Every reaction gives another person or circumstance authority over your peace. The Stoics saw this pattern not as weakness to shame, but as slavery to overcome. Their first lesson was remarkably simple. Separate what belongs to you from what never has. Your actions belong to you. Your choices belong to you. Your values belong to you. Everything else, including praise, criticism, fortune, reputation, and the behavior of others, exists beyond your complete control. The moment you understand this distinction, your relationship with solitude begins to transform into something deeply empowering. When you are constantly surrounded by people, you rarely notice how much of your energy is spent managing appearances. You measure your words, compare your progress, and quietly seek reassurance that you are accepted. None of these habits create lasting confidence. They create dependence. The Stoics believed that the person who requires an audience to feel valuable has unknowingly surrendered ownership of their own peace and purpose. This is why being alone becomes a hidden source of strength rather than a punishment. Without applause, you discover whether your discipline still survives. Without admiration, you learn whether your integrity remains intact. Without distraction, you confront the habits that have quietly governed your life for years. Solitude removes every comforting excuse until only your character remains standing before you, honest and impossible to ignore. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the mind could retreat within itself at any moment. He did not need a palace, a mountain, or a distant temple. His refuge existed in disciplined reflection. Even while surrounded by soldiers, politicians, and endless demands, he cultivated an inner sanctuary untouched by chaos. That lesson remains just as powerful today because true peace has never depended on favorable circumstances. Modern culture encourages constant visibility. Everyone is expected to announce every ambition, share every achievement, and react to every opinion. The Stoics would have viewed this endless exposure with caution. They understood that every unnecessary word invites unnecessary judgment. Every public declaration creates expectations that can quietly weaken determination. There is immense strength in allowing your actions to speak before your voice ever attempts to. Silence is not weakness. Silence is disciplined restraint. The strongest person in the room rarely feels compelled to prove their strength. They understand that energy spent defending an image cannot be invested in building genuine excellence. While others compete for attention, They quietly sharpen their skills, strengthen their minds, and prepare themselves for challenges that weaker spirits cannot yet imagine facing with confidence. This hidden discipline also changes your relationship with criticism. Imagine someone insults you, mocks your ambitions, or questions your worth. Most people immediately feel the urge to respond, defend themselves, or seek revenge. The Stoics recognized that this impulse hands victory to the critic. If another person's words dictate your emotions, they temporarily govern your inner world. Solitude teaches you to reclaim that authority without bitterness. When you regularly spend time alone examining your own thoughts, something remarkable happens. You begin recognizing that many insults lose their power before they ever reach your heart. If they are false, they deserve no attention. If they are true, they reveal an opportunity for improvement. Either way, emotional panic becomes unnecessary. Every criticism becomes either meaningless noise or valuable instruction for becoming wiser. The hidden power of being alone is not found in escaping the world forever. It is found in returning to the world with a mind that no longer depends upon it for identity. You become harder to manipulate because your values are no longer negotiated through popularity. You become calmer because your expectations remain tied to your own actions instead of unpredictable outcomes. That transformation changes every relationship you will ever have. The greatest misunderstanding about solitude is believing that its purpose is comfort. In truth, solitude often begins with discomfort because it removes every distraction that once concealed your weaknesses. The restless thoughts you tried to outrun suddenly become impossible to ignore. Yet this is precisely where the Stoics believed genuine transformation begins. A physician cannot heal an illness that remains hidden, and neither can a person strengthen a character they refuse to examine honestly. Epictetus taught that no one can improve while constantly blaming circumstances for every disappointment. The lonely room, the quiet evening, and the uninterrupted hour become mirrors that reveal your habits without distortion. They show whether your anger comes from another person's behavior or from your own expectations. They reveal whether fear is created by reality itself or by stories your imagination repeats until they appear undeniable. Such discoveries cannot be borrowed from others. This is why the Stoics welcomed obstacles instead of resenting them. They practiced amor fati, the love of fate, because they understood that every challenge carries hidden material for growth. Rejection teaches independence. Failure teaches humility. Delay teaches patience. Loss teaches gratitude. None of these lessons arrive wrapped in comfort, yet each one strengthens the soul more deeply than years of effortless success ever could. Hardship becomes the sculptor of lasting character. Imagine two individuals pursuing the same goal. One seeks constant encouragement, celebrating only when others recognize their effort. The other quietly continues regardless of applause, criticism, or silence. At first, they appear equally committed. Over time, however, their paths separate dramatically. The first becomes exhausted, chasing approval. The second grows stronger because every day of unseen work deepens discipline instead of feeding vanity. Solitude quietly rewards those who remain faithful to their purpose. History repeatedly confirms this pattern. Great achievements are rarely born in crowded rooms filled with endless opinions. They emerge from long periods of concentrated effort that few people ever witness. The Stoics understood that meaningful progress is usually invisible until its results become impossible to ignore. Therefore, they urged their students not to measure life by recognition, but by the quiet consistency of daily actions guided by virtue rather than applause. There comes a moment when you stop fearing empty calendars, quiet mornings, and evenings without distraction. Instead of asking who will notice your progress, you begin asking whether today's choices honored your principles. That single shift changes everything. Confidence is no longer borrowed from compliments. Peace is no longer destroyed by criticism. Success is no longer defined by comparison. It becomes the natural consequence of governing yourself with unwavering discipline. The hidden power of being alone is ultimately the hidden power of becoming impossible to control from the outside. When your happiness depends upon your own character instead of public opinion, no insult can imprison you, no failure can define you, no temporary setback can erase your direction. You carry within yourself a place of stability that survives every storm because it was built through discipline rather than comfort. So the next time silence surrounds you, resist the urge to escape it. Remain there a little longer. Listen carefully to the thoughts that emerge when the world finally stops speaking. Train your mind instead of entertaining it. Guard your plans instead of announcing them. Strengthen your character instead of defending your reputation. In that quiet place, the ancient Stoics discovered a freedom that no emperor could grant and no enemy could ever take away.